The problem with that right now is that you can't scale up the nanoscale in terms of light wavelength. So for architecture, it's not clear how that's going to work. But, so yeah, and it's hard to talk about biology unless you talk about evolution, of course. The hammerhead shark is something that I love because it's one of the most misunderstood creatures out there. A lot of people assume that the hammerhead kind of was a regular shark, and then it started to get a little hammer for some reason, and then it got a bigger hammer, and then it ended up with the big hammer that we know from all the horror movies or whatever. It turns out, if you understand emergence theory and understand evolution a bit, this is actually the more likely candidate, and in fact this has been recently proven in the 90s that the that the winghead shark was the first hammerhead shark to arrive on the scene, and that through the so it was a random mutation, made no sense, was not evolving towards any kind of high performance at all. It was just a random mutation, and then through the time in between has started to create all kinds of optimized versions which are optimized for a particular fitness landscape in the ocean. And the weirdest thing about the hammerhead shark is that despite this bizarre and random mutation, which at this point had no kind of performance qualities, but now it starts to have different qualities like they have better sense of smell, slight better sense of navigation, which it didn't have here. The interesting thing about it is that the hammerhead is the most popular shark in the ocean, despite this sort of bizarre random mutation. So this feedback loop of mutation and fitness testing is very important for biology, and I think it has some huge potential for architecture. In terms of a micro-history of architecture, 20th century, Mies looks like he's interested in structure. He's actually, I don't think at all interested in structure. I think he's interested in dematerialization and the concept of structure and above all, horizontality. And someone else who I find myself much more drawn to is Nervi, sort of architect-engineer type, where you can see what could have turned out to be a very similar structure, but in fact you see much more of the force flows in this kind of a waffle construction than you do in this. You see some kind of adaptation to that, and you see also a kind of admission of the requirement of vertical columns instead of the kind of conceptual nature of trying to make vertical columns disappear. So, as Margaret was saying, one of the biggest interests for the office is structure as a kind of expertise that we're working on now, and in particular structure that is not understood as purely efficient in traditional terms, and definitely not the let's say the best of all possible structures, but something which started out as a random mutation and started to optimize towards performance. So very similar to the dragonfly. Next. So, okay, so this is a house project. I'd never shown it before. I just thought I would show it tonight. It's intended to be my house at a site a few blocks away from where I live now. A starting point for it was a kind of very simple 2 or 3 level house, sort of playing off of the Maison Domino from Le Corbusier. Where you have, you have this thing being all about the horizontal planes, vertical structure, and stairs. And our proposal for the cell house was basically the idea of radial structure instead of vertical structure. And what can radial structure have to do with performance? Who knows? Next. So this was a first attempt to negotiate some floor plates with a radial type structure without knowing where it would lead. Next. This is the house. It's actually at Olympic and Cochrane. Here it's a corner site. And the idea was to do a kind of L-shaped house which blocks out the noise of the street and all that, and have a little courtyard in the interior. Next. So there you see there's this kind of a cellular arrangement which was generated using the Voronoi algorithm that I showed before. And there's a lot of attention to the gradient here between very small cells, larger cells, and then a sort of attenuation of that system into nothing. And then there are other areas of the house which are very straightforward. So this is the plan. Actually, this was originally done for a competition, like everything I do. It was called the Planless House. We submitted it. We submitted plans for the Planless House. Were you not supposed to do that? I don't know. So this is it's very much a loft type arrangement. It's very open, and there's this intense point in the middle, which is all about supporting the glass structure connecting to the circulation system, and that's it. I mean, the rest is very open. So there's the view from the upper level, where the kind of work areas are in the kitchen and all that. Next to the lower level, which is my favorite space, the living room space, which is structure. So the piece of that structure, the intention is to make it all out of welded up plate sections. So it's all water jet cut steel plate welded up robotically or however. But basically it's as custom as you can get. The next project is the Stockholm Library competition. This building is from Gunnar Asplund. It's a very famous building in the middle of Stockholm. He was working, I mean, this was produced during the time of Adolf Loos, so you can imagine why it's stripped down and quite bizarre and interesting. The competition was to question these annexes to the original public library here. These were done after his death, but according to his urban plan, and they're very, very questionable. And so the site was basically between these main streets here, where these annexes are, and then this observatory, and there's a hill right here. So it's a kind of really intense site, and there's this big public plaza. So our proposal tried to react to all three things: to the observatory hill, to the existing Asplund Library, and to this plaza here. Next. So, and also it tried to react to the kind of ruthlessness of the compositional pattern here of windows on this cylinder box, with a pattern which was totally different, but at the same time with a massing that matched up very well to both the buildings. So there's the project. It's again, it's matching very much to the existing building. But it's also lifting up in the back to relate to the public plaza over here. So it becomes the main entry next. And we did a lot of testing and studies on this, just on geometry in general while we worked on it, to get a feeling for what we could do with it. Again, starting with this idea of a random mutation and starting to optimize it, or in this case, even more general, trying to figure out even what it's good for, where it operates well, and where it doesn't. This is a piece of coral that we generated by accident while we were starting to do some Boolean operations on a solid chunk of cellular material. Here's another piece where we started to refine that, and we had control of the solid block. It was like coral, really. Next. And this is a piece in the middle of the building which we called the hive, which was not programmed, and it was not clear exactly what it was, except that it would begin to organize the floor plates and the circulation inside the building. So this is what it became: a shell and a hive, and floor plates beginning to be structurally linked back to this hive down to the ground. And there it is. You see it also starting to organize some of the circulation. Next. This is a view inside the hive. And this is a study that we did about color, where we wanted to have not just variability in cell size, but also variability in color relating to that. And here's a kind of back courtyard, which we wanted to have away from the busy streets where they could have a cafe and all that, and where it's also linked. Yeah, this is an image that we did for us. We never sent this in for the competition. This was this moment in the cellular aggregation where the things started to become less cellular and more linear. So we're starting to get these beam-like elements sprouting out of this cellular mass, which I found totally interesting, but also completely scary for the librarians. So we